from the guy that brought you way too many tier list posts on the Crusader Kings subreddit. Half-baked attempts at humor and occasional philosophical ponderings comes the brand new...
Oh, it's just another tier list? It's literally just another tier list? Alright, let's get this over with. So I just wanted to start by saying thanks to everyone who participated in the subreddit community tier list. That was a lot of fun to do. It took up a bit of my day every day for a little over a month, so that was cool. I didn't really expect it to get as much attention as it did, but the discussions that we got from that were really insightful, and it was just really fun to be a part of that. So I just wanted to share with you guys my own take on the personality traits, using some of what I learned from the many brilliant discussions that we had over on the subreddit, and my own opinions, of course. I've got over 1,000 hours in Crusader Kings 3, which might not seem like a lot to some of you and might seem like way too many for others. It is what it is. So there's really two things to look at when ranking these traits. First, the numbers. Crusader Kings is an RPG, and like in any RPG, numbers reign supreme. We're talking stat bonuses, penalties, things like income boost, prestige generation, stress regulation, basically the stuff on the tooltip. The other thing to look for is if the trait unlocks any new or unique interactions, be it decisions, unique options to deal with events. Most traits do this, some do it better than others, some do it a lot more than others. We're going to weigh all this, put together a comprehensive tier list of each trait. So let's get started with ambitious.
What are we gonna do tomorrow night?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
Ambitious is a hard one for me. I like it a lot personally. I like the roleplay aspect of it, but if we're just looking at it like numbers wise, it's just not that amazing. You get +1 for every stat, that's nice, but it's not much. You get a little bit of extra stress. You get an opinion boost from some of your vassals, so that's something. I honestly can't recall off the top of my head any significant event choices or decisions tied to ambitious, so it's really just not giving us much here. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the B tier.
I don't go to school and I kill people. Whatever, I do what I want.
So the first thing with arbitrary is that it hurts your stewardship a bit. I mean, it's just -2, but that's still considerable. It could be the difference maker in your domain cap. What it does give us is +3 intrigue, but personally I think this is the weakest stat in the game. If you're going for an intrigue build, you might want to look at this trait, but otherwise, arbitrary does help you manage stress a little bit, not as much as some of the other traits though. You'll learn 1 point in learning, you also get some dread, lose some vassal opinion, marginal things. It does grant you the unique option of dismissing hooks, which is kind of nice. Overall though, I think it hurts you just as much as it helps you, and I'm gonna put it in the C tier. Strong entry for C tier though. I definitely see why it got voted to B.
Bender, honey, we love you.
Shut up, baby, I know it.
So let's be honest here, arrogant doesn't really give us much. You get a little bit of monthly prestige, which is whatever. I mean, prestige isn't that hard to come by, even in the early game. And a little bit of extra monthly prestige is not going to have as big an impact as some of the things that you can do in-game to generate prestige. The rest of the stuff here, it's a collection of almost inconsequential little penalties. I'm going to put it in the D tier.
Alright, thumbs up. Ready, guys? Let's do this. Leroy Dragons!
Oh my god, he just ran in.
Brave is one of my favorites. You get +2 Martial, which is nice. I think Martial is probably the most important stat in the early game. The extra prowess is nice too, especially for adventurers, but it's good for anyone if you ever find yourself dueling or going to tournaments or whatever. I've used this trait a bunch, and I've never been captured or died in battle, so I don't really see that potential risk as a big downside. But I don't really fight in losing battles, really. I mean, if you're doing that a lot, maybe that's something to think about. You also get some opinion bonuses here. Stress loss through hunting, that's nice. It's just a really solid trait. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in A tier.
Who are those horrible orange creatures over there? Why, those are the Grunkalunkas. They work here in the Slurm factory. Tell them I hate them.
CALLOUS gives us some intrigue and takes away some diplomacy. These are two stats that just aren't really that important to me. I mean, diplomacy is a little better than intrigue for sure. We get some dread, which is nice, I guess. Dread is a little bit harder to obtain now than it used to be, but not by much, really. So it helps a little bit. It helps with tyranny gain a bit. Personally, I try to avoid tyrannical actions, but if you're doing a bit of that, you might want this trait. Some opinion penalties, some stress from releasing prisoners, but who's really doing that anyway? Overall, I'm thinking this is a C tier trait, just not really doing much either way.
Put your hand there, just touch the furry wall. Stay with me. Be calm, just stroke the furry wall. With the furry wall. With the furry wall.
So now we have calm. I really like calm. It's just nice, you know? You get some diplomacy, some intrigue, some stress loss. You get some cool meditation decision. It helps protect you against schemes a little bit more. It hurts your dread a little bit, but that's fine. I think it's just a solid trait. It doesn't give a whole lot, but it's good. It's good. We're gonna put it in the B tier.
I have needs, you know.
And how am I not addressing your needs?
How can you even ask that? What is this?
Oh, go right to that. Good, go right there. Real mature. Really great.
I don't like chaste. It's a pretty unique personality trait, but not in a good way. I typically like having as many kids as possible. I think if you're the type of player that likes not having lots of kids, maybe you take chaste and sadistic so you could cut down on your children and just make succession as simple as possible. I mean, that's fine. I don't really play like that. I think it hurts a lot more in the long run if you're not pumping out as many kids as you can. A little bit of learning is nice though. It's not going to completely ruin your character, but it's just not very helpful in my opinion. So we're going to put it in D tier.
Pat very gently on the head. Kiss on both cheeks. Mwah, mwah. Treat.
So this was the first trait that had a bit of, should I say, controversy in the Reddit tier list. I read some very well thought out arguments that were saying it should be placed in the B tier. I agree with a lot of what was said there. I like that it grants you the adoption interaction. I think that's really cool and unique to have a personality trait that can do that. Though personally I haven't used it yet. I've never adopted. I just really haven't felt the need. But it's cool that it's there. Ultimately though, whatever bonuses Compassionate may give, it just causes so much stress through actions that I tend to use a lot in almost every playthrough. Imprisoning, blackmailing, murdering, revoking titles, torture. These are all just wonderful things that I simply won't go without. So I'm gonna have to slot it in the D tier.
This is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently.
I hate consent, just from like a RP perspective more than anything. I just straight up don't like it. I also hate that it's such a good trait. I think it really shouldn't be as good as it is, but that's just my opinion. You get learning, stress loss, opinion bonuses, and the penalties are all pretty minor. You lose 1 point of intrigue, wow. You get stress from a few interactions that you might trigger once in a playthrough. It's not the best trait, but it's not that bad. I'm gonna put it in B tier.
There's nothing to wear. Did you guys hear that? I'm scared. I don't know what was that, guys, and I didn't do that. I'm scared.
CRAVEN just sucks. It's just bad. There's a few traits on here that I feel like don't really need to be discussed too much because of how bad they are. CRAVEN did get D tier on the community tier list, which I thought was weird. I understand it can save you from a few specific situations. That would be good if you have a ruler worth saving, but you don't. You have a CRAVEN. F tier.
The God of the Old Testament is arguably the most unpleasant character in all fiction.
So I don't really use this one too much. I forget the childhood event that gives you this option, but it must be put in there with some bangers because I almost never take this trait, even though it's really not bad at all. You get some intrigue, some learning. Reduced faith conversion costs can come in handy in some situations. Minus 20% monthly piety, but monthly piety is absolutely useless. I'm putting it in B tier.
Oh, I can't stay mad at what is essentially me. I love me.
So this trait doesn't really do much. I have to admit I don't think I've ever used it, so my experience with it is pretty minimal. If you're gonna go for an intrigue build, I'm sure it's a fine trait. I know it's a sin in some of the major religions as well. It's really just not too much to say about this one. I'm just gonna go ahead and put it in the C tier.
Baby's building a tower into space. Space is where he's gonna find his dad.
So now we have Diligent, and I think Diligent is just an amazing trait. It's probably the best trait. You get stewardship, you get diplomacy, you get learning, stress loss through hunting. It does make stress loss a little more difficult overall, but that's fine, that's manageable, it's worth it. The key feature obviously of this trait is the develop capital decision. There's just no other trait that does anything like this. Very few interactions in the game that allow you to boost your development like this does. It's just such a unique and useful trait. Probably the best one. We're gonna put it in S tier.
I'm not crazy! Don't call me crazy! I'm just not user-friendly!
So yeah, I love this trait. I think Eccentric is one of the best traits we have. You lose a little bit of diplomacy, but you gain some learning, which is more important. It messes with stress a little bit, but kind of balances itself out there. My favorite things about this trait though, the lifestyle experience, which is just amazing, and the extra event options you'll get with this trait. I mean, I love it from an RP perspective and from a gaming perspective. Definitely gonna give it S tier. It got S tier in the community tier list as well, but I saw some pushback there, which was kind of surprising. I mean, I saw one comment saying the lifestyle experience isn't that great because it only results in 1 perk every 17 years. Like, how is that not great? That's like on average 4 extra perk points per ruler. No other personality trait is going to get you anything like that. I think it's very clearly S tier.
I don't know, it's too hard.
So I don't really like Fickle that much. Doesn't have much to offer, really. It helps protect you from schemes only marginally. It hurts stewardship, which is probably the most important stat in the game. Gives you a little bit of diplomacy and intrigue. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it. We're putting it in D tier.
I forgive you.
So forgiving is another trait I have to admit I don't really have a lot of experience with. On its face though, it just doesn't look very impressive to me. I mean, it gives you +2 diplomacy, +1 learning, prisoner opinion. Wow, amazing. Yeah, I think this is the only thing in the entire game that changes prisoner opinion. So that's cool if you want to be friends with the people you keep locked up, I guess. What I really don't like though is how it gives you stress for doing like all the best things in the game. It's a lot like Compassionate in that it's just kind of annoying to deal with. It's not going to ruin the character for you, but it's just, yeah. We're going to put it in D tier.
Hey, sir, never commit suicide. Everything gonna see all right. Would you like a slice of pizza?
So with Generous, I mean, some people really like this trait for late game. I saw a lot of people on Reddit just obsessed with it, but I don't see the attraction, honestly. Like me personally, I never have enough money. Early game, late game, whatever. Like even when I'm straight up printing it like the Fed, I always need more. And what I tend to do with it is send my kids to university, develop the land in my empire. Once my domain is capped out in buildings, I go and I build for my vassals. I mean, I just like to see the realm prosper, and you need a lot of money to be doing all that. So in a sense, those actions are generous, but the generous trait itself is just not that good, in my opinion. I need that income, so I'm gonna put it in D tier, and you can fight me on that. Gluttonous makes you fat. It goes into F for fat.
Yo, Bima, what happened?
You got too much money, honey. All of this dash is threatening the structural integrity of the treehouse.
Well, you already know how I feel about money. The thing is, I do like gifting money quite a bit as well, especially in the late game, and this trait will give you stress for doing that. But you also get even more income with how high your stress level goes. So it's actually kind of a win-win if you can manage it. And it can be difficult to manage stress sometimes, depending on what traits you have, what options are available to you. If you pair greedy with like eccentric and diligent, could make things kind of difficult. But I think overall, it's just pretty good, and I'm gonna put it in the B tier.
Hey, this party is so crazy!
I know.
So Gregarious gets a lot of love on the subreddit. It even got voted into S tier, and I rarely saw anyone disagree with that placement. Me personally though, I don't see it. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely a positive trait. But S tier, I mean, you get some diplomacy, some monthly influence, opinion gain. It helps with your personal schemes a bit. It helps with stress. It's a nice trait. It's not S tier. Honestly, I feel like pre-community tier list, I would have put it in B tier, but I guess you could say I've been swayed enough to bump it up to A. But I don't know if I'm happy about that.
I think I'm gonna puke.
Do not puke in front of an officer of the law.
Don't tell me not to puke, because that'll make me puke more.
Hello, officer. How are you?
Well, I'm relieved you're not a couple of black guys.
So with honest, you get -4 intrigue, which is probably the biggest numerical stat malus out of all the personality traits. So that's something, I guess. That being said, you know, intrigue isn't super important. You get some diplomacy, some opinion bonuses, and it helps with stress since exposing secrets is pretty easy. I don't know how I feel about this one. You know, I think it's not that great, but it doesn't really have any serious downsides, and it can help a lot if you're struggling with stress. If you got diligent, you got greedy, maybe you're struggling with stress a little bit, it could help out. So I think we're gonna put it in B tier.
Bitch, be humble. Bitch, sit down. Be humble. Sit down. Be humble.
So yeah, humble is a trait that pretty much doesn't do anything. I can't really think of a single interesting thing to say about this one. I love that song though, so C tier.
Let's go already!
So I really like impatient for adventurers, since you end up traveling so much, and it just makes that so much more efficient. -2 learning isn't great, but it's not the end of the world. You get some opinion loss, but you also get the expedite scheme decision, which also helps a lot if you're an adventurer, since you'll be doing a lot of schemes. So yeah, pretty solid trait for adventurers. Not too bad for rulers either though. I mean, I definitely like traveling with my rulers as well. So I think it's overall a positive trait. We're going to put it in B tier.
I, Eddard, of the House Stark, Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North, sentence you to die.
So Just is another one of my favorites. You get some stewardship, which is nice, some learning, some opinion bonuses, helps legitimacy, instant stress loss from exposing secrets, pretty much offsets all the stress gained from blackmailing and executing people. But my favorite thing about the trait is how it can synergize with certain religions and cultures. I mean, if you customize your religion and your culture to give you those bonuses to Just, I mean, it just becomes a really amazing trait. Probably S tier with those things considered, but since it does require a bit of work for it to reach that level, we're gonna go ahead and put it in A. Honestly, it feels a little wrong having it on the same level of Gregarious. Oh well.
I love these lazy Saturdays.
It's Wednesday, Homer.
Boo, F tier.
Thank the gods for Bessie and her tits.
So, Lustful is pretty good. As I've said before, I like to pump out as many kids as I can, and this definitely helps with that. Not that it's hard to do that anyway, though you don't really need it, but it's nice. You know, just having those seduce schemes pop faster is nice. It is a sin in some of the major religions, which sucks, but, you know, it is what it is. We're gonna put it in B tier.
Whoa, whoa! Hey! Who's around me right now? Who's around me?
Yeah, this is another pretty bad trait. I have played with it a few times, and some of the events tied to this are pretty fun, but as far as gaming goes, it's just not a gamer trait. F tier.
It's time for the moment you've been waiting for. Preparing the Krabby Patty!
Someone on the Reddit thread for this one pointed out how patience is such an important trait for a ruler, and I really agree with that. It really should be better than it currently is in the game. That being said though, it's pretty underwhelming currently. It really doesn't do much. The +2 learning is nice. Helps protect you from hostile schemes just a little bit. That's about it. I think it's pretty weak B tier, but makes it into B tier.
What is your name?
My name is Freak.
Oh boy, here we go. Alright, so this is where the community started to go a little crazy, I think. Just very divisive trait. So let's look at the numbers. +2 intrigue, who cares? +4 prowess, okay, cool. 35 natural dread, that's something. -10 general opinion, alright, I mean it's not the best. Even more opinion loss with courtly vassals. People are gonna hate you, people are gonna fear you, you'll be strong. But nobody cares about any of that. The big selling point here is you can murder your own children. Well, that and the stress loss, which is nice. But killing your kids, that's the main thing that people seem to love with this trait. And I don't agree with that perspective at all. Having kids is great. Having tons of kids is great. They'll grow your dynasty, you can marry them off to whoever. But if you kill them, you won't get any of that. You'll be missing out on fuck tons of renown. There's so many ways to deal with succession. They're almost all better than killing your children. Disinheriting is probably the only option that's worse. So, that said, overall I think it's a fine trait. It can be very useful in certain circumstances. If you think you're going to struggle with stress, this is a great choice to get rid of stress. The opinion loss hurts a bit, but who cares? I'm putting this one in B tier. Yeah, it's bad. It's F tier. I think stubborn is a pretty good trait. I mean, you lose opinion, but you get stewardship and some disease resistance. People are crazy about this trait though. I mean, yeah, it's good. Stewardship is probably the best stat. We all love it. But I don't think it's S tier. I don't think it comes close to the other traits we have in S tier at the moment. I'd go as far as to say that it would struggle to keep up with some of the A tier traits. But since I've already put gregarious up there, I feel like stubborn should be in there too. I'm really having second thoughts about that now.
Don't you drink, Lord Bolton?
Never do, my lady. Dulls the senses.
Another Reddit favorite. It's pretty similar to stubborn, but it trades 1 point in stewardship for a more serious health bonus. Personally, I think it's pretty awesome. No other personality trait gives you a real health bonus. It's also a virtue in some of the major religions, which is nice. You know, I'm tempted to put it in S tier, and I think I will.
Trusted you, I 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 trusted you.
So with trusting, you get some diplomacy, you lose some intrigue. The opinion of effects are completely useless for the player, in case you didn't know. So yeah, this trait makes it easier for your enemies to kill you, makes traveling more dangerous, makes some fun stuff cause stress. It's not a great trait. Is it F tier? Yeah, it's F tier. It's probably the strongest F tier, so at least there's that.
I used to think revenge was a dish best served cold, but then I realized it meant getting back at somebody.
Vengeful is an interesting one, because it's a sin in some of the major religions, but it's a virtue for the Norse, which is pretty popular. Numbers wise though, it's pretty underwhelming. You lose diplomacy, but you gain intrigue, prowess, and dread gain. All pretty inconsequential. It helps with schemes, and lets you fabricate hooks for free, which is nice. Presents a few extra opportunities to lose some stress. I can see this being pretty good for an intrigue character, if that's your thing. Pretty weak entry into the B tier for me. I actually really like Wrathful. It's a virtue for the Norse as well, I believe. It gives you a pretty nice martial boost, which is somewhat rare for these traits. You only lose a little bit of intrigue and diplomacy. Who cares? My favorite aspect of it though has to be the punish criminal interaction. It's just a fun way to deal with those bad hombres, and we're gonna put it in B tier.
Shoot!
of peace, stomping on the enemy. God. Jesus Christ, we love you, God!
And finally, we have Zealous. We get some Marshall here, some monthly piety, some opinion gains. The increased faith conversion cost can be annoying if you need to convert. The stress loss through execution is pretty nice. Overall, I'd say it's a solid trait. I think I'd have more fun with it if religion was more fleshed out as a game mechanic, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, I think this one goes into the B tier as well. So that's it. That's the list. Thanks for watching to the end if you did. I really appreciate that. This was my first time doing something like this, so I'd appreciate it if you guys let me know how it went. Also, let me know what you think about the list. If you disagree with me on some of these things, maybe we can hash it out in the comments below. And I want to ask you guys, should I do another tier list? Maybe we can look at lifestyles or commander traits or something. I'll keep thinking on it, but let me know if you guys want to see more of this kind of stuff. Thanks again for watching, and thanks to everyone who participated in the Reddit discussions. That was a lot of fun.